Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Newstos. And today, a lot of fans on the internet are very angry as Nintendo faces a lot of backlash right now. Nintendo did make an official announcement last night to shut down, and yes, you heard this correctly, to shut down the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U eShops. They are obliterating a big part of game history by doing this, and as expected, fans are not particularly happy. I'm not particularly happy either, and I will explain why here in a little bit. Of course, if you want to skip right to that part of the video, I do have timestamps below. That's why they're there. But beyond that, as always, we do have plenty of things to talk about, including a leak that hit Xbox. This one definitely sounds pretty exciting for you Halo fans out there, so make sure to stay tuned for that one as well. To get things started off today, though, we do actually have some good news for Nintendo. Believe it or not, not everything was bad coming from them, as something promising did come out online regarding Super Mario RPG. So this one is coming from Chihiro Fujioka, which is the director for Super Mario RPG, and he's also worked with Alpha Dreams on several of the Mario and Luigi RPG games. And he was asked in an interview, were you eager to get your hands on a Mario RPG again at some point in your career? And he responded, yeah, I would absolutely love to make one. Yeah, so in my career, I've been involved in a lot of games, and I would really like my final one to be another Mario RPG game, if possible. Yeah, I would like to go back and create a Mario RPG where you're only controlling Mario. So there you have it. And the thing is that fans have been wanting a new Mario RPG for some time now, and Nintendo hasn't really been doing that. We'll get back to that here in a moment, but it definitely looks like you're not alone in this situation. The director himself that worked on Super Mario RPG very much wants to work on another Mario RPG game. So from a fan's perspective, that's something that you absolutely want to hear. But the question will still remain, will Nintendo actually make this happen? That's kind of the thing though, because I feel like Nintendo had an opportunity to kind of cement the future for the Mario RPG games in general. Alpha Dreams had been working on the Mario and Luigi RPG games for years, and those games had been very well received, but unfortunately they did make some mistakes there at the end and since have been shut down. I've always believed because the talent that they had, and I feel like that they really fit into that Nintendo DNA, that Nintendo should have picked them up and acquired them. It didn't happen that way, but I feel like that would have been the perfect studio to continue the RPG Mario games as we had seen for so many years. And I feel like if those games would have released for the Nintendo Switch, I think they would have had a lot of success. That Switch effect is a very real thing, and I think that would have rejuvenated the Mario RPG franchise in general. Nonetheless, though, it is really interesting to see the director for Super Mario RPG to express interest in at least working on one more of these games. So hopefully Nintendo is listening here, because I know there's a lot of fans out there that has been hoping for this to happen. So come on, Nintendo, let's make it happen. Next up, we do have a new interesting studio to talk about here, being Rebel Wolves. Now, this is something that we have been seeing a little bit more of here recently, where some of these big independent AAA studios are starting to pop up with some pretty high-profile studio directors. But Rebel Wolves is one that really stands out because, well, this one's actually coming from The Witcher 3 and the Cyberpunk 2077 director, Konrad Tomaskiewicz. Hopefully, I didn't completely butcher that pronunciation, but him being the director of The Witcher 3, that's going to grab some attention considering The Witcher 3 is one of the all-time greatest RPGs ever made. Now, we can kind of point to Cyberpunk 2077 and some of its downfalls, but as I've kind of pointed out before, beyond all of the bugs and the glitches for that game, it was actually a pretty decent game. It might not have reached those lofty expectations, but I still feel like that there's a good game behind all of the bugs and the glitches. So again, with him forming his own studio here, being Rebel Wolves, that's going to grab some attention. And the way they're selling this studio right now, it does seem like that they're setting the expectations quite high for this game, as they do say that they are aiming to become the holy grail of computer RPGs. It definitely seems like they're shooting for the moon with this quote here, but I like the confidence here, and obviously they do have a lot of talent that's worked on some excellent games in the past. They did say that the team is made up of industry talent with experience spanning several titles, including the Witcher series, Cyberpunk 2077, Thronebreaker, that's another another good one, and then also Shadow Warrior 2. So they definitely have the experience to make a good RPG. Now, as of this moment, the team is only of about 12 employees, but they did say that over the next couple years, they plan to grow to about 80, which makes for a pretty good sized studio here. They do continue on to say that they are working on a single-player narrative-focused game, and they do talk about player's choice, which is something that they implemented very well within the Witcher franchise. So if you do like RPGs, or if you've liked some of CD Projekt Red's past games, this might be a studio worth keeping an eye on. It's probably going to be several years before we actually get a glimpse as to what this game is, but with the talent that they have here in their past history on RPGs, this is certainly a very promising studio to keep an eye on. And this is a nice trend that we have been seeing here recently. I know there's been a lot of talk about the consolidation of the game industry, but we have been seeing a lot of these big AAA independent studios pop up, and this really just adds to that list. Okay, so let's go and move on over to the big stuff, and unfortunately, we do have to talk about Nintendo today, as they have officially announced that they will no longer be supporting the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS eShop. As you would expect, fans are not happy about this situation at all. I'm not happy about this, and I will go over all of that here in a little bit. But first, let's actually take a look at what Nintendo had to say about this situation. They do say as of May 23rd, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a credit card to add funds to an account in Nintendo eShop on Wii U or the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. As of August 29th, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a Nintendo eShop card to add funds to an account in Nintendo eShop on Wii U or the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. However, it will still be possible to redeem download codes until late March 2023. So there you have it, and I know that the writing was kind of on the wall when it comes to this situation. Here recently, Nintendo has been removing ways to buy these games in certain regions, so it was only a matter of time before this happened, but no matter how you slice it, this is an incredibly frustrating situation. With this move here, Nintendo will be obliterating a big part of their history, and to just kind of put that into perspective, let's actually go over to the Video Game Chronicles, which looked at how many digital-only games will be lost forever by removing the Nintendo eShop on the 3DS and the Wii U. Big shout out to VGC here for doing the research. They continue to do an incredible job over there, but they say in total around 2,000 games are currently available on the 3DS and Wii U eShop stores in the West, including around 450 digital-only Wii U games, around 600 digital-only 3DS games, around 100 Wii U games that are also available physically, around 300 3DS games that are also available physically, nearly 530 virtual console games, around 350 which are not currently available on Nintendo Switch Online. So yes, according to VGC, up to 1,000 digital-only games will disappear by removing the eShop, and that does not include the virtual console games that are not available on the Nintendo Switch today. And that's one of the most frustrating parts about this, is because the virtual console on the Wii U and the 3DS, in my opinion, are both better than Nintendo Switch Online. Now, I think Nintendo Switch Online has some strong points because, I mean, it adds certain features with like online capability and all of that, but the most important thing is just the games in general, and there's more games available on the 3DS and the Wii U when it comes to Virtual Console, and you can also actually just flat out buy the games that you want. I mean, the Wii U has games like Super Mario RPG, which we just talked about earlier, and it also has access to Nintendo DS games. Yeah, that's pretty incredible right there, and the thing about them removing the eShop is they're not giving you another way to play these games. Now, of course, they can fast track the Nintendo Switch Online to make these games available over there, but how long is that actually going to take? But with what we've seen from Nintendo Switch Online so far, it's probably going to be a long time, if ever at all. We'll kind of see about that whole situation, but I also know that there's going to be people out there that say, who's actually buying these games still? But actually about that, if you take a look back to last year, one of the big topics for 2021 was Metroid Dread, and unfortunately for the Metroid franchise, it's always been a little overlooked, so Metroid Dread was kind of an introduction to the franchise for a lot of people, and before that game released, a lot of people were going back to play games like Metroid Fusion and Metroid Zero, and you really only have a couple options to play these games legally. And that would either be to go back and purchase these games from secondhand sellers, which these games were quite expensive, or instead you could go to the Wii U Virtual Console and buy these games, and while both Metroid Fusion and Metroid Zero was selling very well on the Wii U last year, that was a very useful thing to have access to last year, and I think that's one of the problems that I have with this current situation when it comes to Nintendo, because fans will buy games if they have access to them. The problem is, though, is that there's currently not a lot of access to these games unless you want to buy from secondhand sellers, and it's not like Nintendo is making money off of those secondhand game sales, and that ends up leading to emulation, which Nintendo has been shutting down a lot of these websites over recent years. And okay, they have every right to do that if they want, but at the same time, maybe give fans easier access to these games because, well, you're going to make money off of that, and fans will also be happy, and they won't have to emulate games. I don't know. I just think one of the end results of them doing something like this is just going to lead to more emulation. I mean, people are going to go out and they're going to hack their 3DS, they're going to hack their Wii U because of this entire situation, and then Nintendo's going to be mad, but can you be mad when you put fans in a situation? That's really the question that I have. And I think that we should even take this a step further, because I don't really feel like that there's a lot of forward thinking when it comes to preserving some of these older games. I mean, first off, when it comes to Nintendo, what they should probably do, and this would be the right thing to do for fans, you have a Nintendo account, and your games should be linked to that account. That should go with you into the future. So if you bought a game on a virtual console such as Super Mario Bros. 3, well, if that game comes over to the Nintendo Switch, you should automatically have access to that game. Nintendo has never really operated that way, though, which I guess this is a separate issue, but it's still annoying nonetheless. I really feel like Xbox is the only one that has had a bit of forward thinking when it comes to preserving some of their older games. They did commit to bringing back several of the original Xbox and Xbox 360 games that you can play through backwards compatibility on the Xbox One and also the Xbox Series. And the cool thing is, if you already own those games, well, you don't have to buy them again. They also have done things like enhance several of these games. So that is a prime example of what these companies should be doing. But unfortunately, that's just not the situation. Last year, we saw PlayStation. They tried to end the PlayStation Vita store. They tried to end the PlayStation 3 store. Thankfully, there was a ton of backlash, and, well, they did a bit of a moonwalk, and they backtracked that one a little bit. And now here we have Nintendo, but I do not think they're going to backtrack on this one. Nintendo has always been, well, they're just Nintendo. They do what they want to, so I don't think that they're going to backtrack on this situation, unfortunately. It is what it is, I guess. You know, I know that we knew that this was bound to happen eventually, but I don't like it. I mean, I get it and I understand it from a business perspective, but at the same time, I just feel like that there is more that can be done here, and I really feel like the game industry needs to do a better job with game preservation, just as a whole, especially as we head into this more digital future. Beyond that, though, we do actually have a pretty exciting leak to talk about for Xbox, and this one's actually about Halo Infinite. Now, as we all know, Halo Infinite has a lot of planned content coming throughout 2022, and one of the most highly anticipated features will be Forge Mode. Forge has always pushed creativity when it comes to the Halo community by letting them make their own maps and their own game modes, but unfortunately Forge did not make it to the launch of Halo Infinite, and since then we haven't really heard much from 343 about this game mode. But, well, interestingly enough, a major leak just made its way online regarding Forge Mode. Now, I'm not going to include leaked footage here, but there is a 50-minute long video out there. You can easily find that, and it includes a lot of the objects that are included in this new Forge Mode, and it looks absolutely insane. I mean, we're talking about the best Forge Mode as of yet, giving you more control than ever before. And this is the feature that seems to have the Halo community going absolutely nuts, but you can actually change the weather within each map of the game. And based off some of the leaks that are going around, this was implemented to great effect. There was some different examples shown online, which included Bazaar at night, and there was some different fire across the street, and it just changed the atmosphere of that level completely. It gave it more of a horror-like vibe, which would fit perfectly with zombie mode, as an example. It looked fantastic, but you can do other things, of course. You can add snow to any level that you want. If you want it to rain, you can do that, and you can change the time of the day. It just looks absolutely phenomenal, and it's just going to make Forge Mode even more interesting. I can only imagine some of the creativity that we're going to see come from this, because the Halo Forge community is, of course, very creative, and if you give them even more control, yeah, I think you're going to see some pretty cool things come from this. It definitely looks like the wait is going to be well worth it for fans looking forward to Forge, and hopefully we do get an official reveal for this sometime here soon. Again, though, if you do want to see some of the leaked footage, you can go check that out online. I don't put leaked footage on my channel for obvious reasons, but definitely go check that out if you are interested. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, and yesterday it was announced that Cyberpunk 2077 is now available on the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5. That highly anticipated next-generation upgrade is finally out, but the question that I have is it a little too late? So I wanted to ask you all, now that the Cyberpunk 2077 next-generation upgrade is out, will you play it? And I think that the results here was definitely interesting because, as you can see here, 33% of you said yes, we'll be playing it for the first time, 19% of you said yes, we'll be replaying it, 10% of you said no, already played it, and then 27% of you said no, never played it, and not interested. So a total of 52% of you said that yes, you will play this now that that upgrade is out, many of which has not played Cyberpunk 2077 before. So by all means, it definitely looks like it's not too late after all. It definitely seems that a lot of people are still interested in this game, and as I've said before, again, if they have truly fixed the bugs and glitches of this game, I think that's a great thing because I think Cyberpunk 2077 was good beyond that. The game itself was not bad. The reputation for this game is bad, and that was because it was plagued by bugs. But beyond all of its issues and its high expectations, there is a good game here, so hopefully they truly have fixed up some of the problems that it had at launch, and now that it is available on these next-generation platforms, hopefully a lot of people can jump in and enjoy Cyberpunk 2077. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.